Is when the karmic ego dies. Yeah.
How do I know, for example, what is the karmic ego, position, and what is something that I know that is good for my body?
It's very, very good question. Very good question. So there's a couple of things that you can know, and the handout that I'm going to give out afterwards also gives you some ranges of that. Basically, if you gain energy, if you gain awareness, you become brighter, stronger, more aware, more healthy, more happy. Over a period of time engaging with an activity, you know that it's supporting your Dharma. It's probably more of a commander energy. If you get drained and tired and unmotivated and over a longer period of time, every time you do this energetic, then it's usually a pretender reality. So we know, for example, I can sit and go, oh, I don't want to do my da-da-da-da, oh, well, I do my da-da-da tomorrow, and I do it that, and no. I have lots of resistance, which could mean I obviously don't want to do this. But then I go and do it, and I feel like, bang! I feel totally energized and so on. Well, I know that, okay, it was good for me to do that, and this thing that I was doing beforehand was pure entertainment of my karmic ego, yeah? And it becomes really obvious. And it's incredibly good if you can call it with humor, if you can kind of dangle it in front of yourself and say, oh, yeah, okay. I know what that was. Shine the light on it. Make it aware. Make it part of your consciousness versus part of your shadow. Yeah? All right. The birth of the Dharma ego, how are we doing? Woo. The birth of the Dharma ego has to do with getting completely in command. The commander self, we call it the commander ego. And so part of what your question was asking is exemplifying this learning that we have to go through in our psyche, where we know and start listening to our inner knowing, our higher self, our original being, our soul space. You can call it many things. And that this part of our soul space, our higher self, our original being, becomes strong within us, so that we actually start knowing when it's saying yes, or when it's saying go, or when it's saying no. This part of our inner knowing, we have faith in it, and we start following it, and it's leading us onto the right path. That is part of the commander Dharma ego. The Dharma ego is also step number 4, and in our tradition, step number 4 has to do with absolute total determination, full throttle. And part of what we learn here is the will to do and the willingness to engage. So rather than running around wasting time on resistances and all these different other things we do, distractions and so on, we learn to hone our life force. And it becomes this like, I have the will to do and the willingness to engage. And the faster I can engage on what I know is right, what comes from heaven, or what comes from my higher self, or what comes from my being, from my naturalness, the faster I grow, the more happier I become, the healthier I am. Have you noticed this? If you take action on what you know has come to you in ceremony, has come to you in meditation, has come to you when you're washing your hair in the shower, when you're having sex, inspirations come through. And you know they are true. If you take action on them and bring them into your life, boom, evolution starts happening with ease. It is no longer hardship to evolve. You see, part of karma growing is all about the hardship to evolve and the pain of healing. Dharma growing is pleasure and knowledge, like blissful, ecstatic pleasure as we are growing. And not avoiding the painful experiences in life. You know, we have heartaches, we have sadness, we have grief, we bump our foot, we have pain, but that doesn't mean that we stop being ecstatic, that we stop being engaging, that we stop being spontaneous. That makes sense? All right. So I want to give you some time to work with a little sheet that I have, so you can actually take this talk into your own psyche a little bit and answer some questions for yourself and see if we can maybe walk out of here with something tangible. Yeah? So that's the birth of the Dharma ego, total and complete determination and liberation. You are no longer forgetting. Yeah? And you have many areas in your life where you have done this. There's many spaces where you just do what you know you need to do, and there's not a question about it. And you are that being and that person now. You're no longer the one who had difficulty with it. You know this place? Yeah. Now the awakening and the birth of the natural self is what our teacher says, Thunderstrike says, that this is the place that we are collectively. So the collective of human beings are at place as step number 5 in the Dharmic intending. So the awakening or birth of our natural self. This is a very, very mature space that actually all of us carry when we are willing to acknowledge ourselves for who we are and just let go of the old way and be. Spontaneously reveal our emotions, open our space, have co-empowered interaction with other human beings, be willing to confront, be willing to put our foot down when things isn't sitting right, be willing to engage in the moment with everything that needs to happen. That is part of the awakening and the birth of the natural self. It is basically the place where we learn to step out of codependent relationships to other human beings. So we stop codependency and we step into full co-empowerment. We take responsibility for co-empowerment. It's actually not very, very easy. So we don't let any loose ends of contamination, upset, and anger sit in a relationship, for example. We do everything we can to sort it out and go to war, in many ways, against what is creating the darkness in us. You see, many elders speak that this time is not a time for weaklings. This time is a time for spiritual warriors that is willing to surf the waves of chaos. Because if we look at our economy, if we look at what's happening politically, if we look at all of the things, the weather and everything that is going on in our time today, it's quite chaotic. Would you agree? So part of learning how to thrive and be fulfilled and take advantage of what's happening in our world today is to learn to be more chaotic in the way we flow, to be less fixed, to be much more fluid. And that's the awakening and birth of the natural self. We start acting out of character, for example. We don't act the same way that Kristin has acted all of her life. I dare to be in self-expression. We call it the development of the magical, mysterious character. The magical, mysterious character are like 1,000 facets of who we are as a being that we are willing to start expressing. What I would love to see if we could do together is if we could get an understanding of what's on this little piece of paper, then take a look at some of the things there and really apply them to your life. Apply some of these questions. You see, the first one's going to have to do with, here are some suggested criteria to apply in Dharma when choosing between multiple opportunities. So in order for you to know that an opportunity is going to be dharmic for you, it must always increase your stability and link to the source of the force of your path with heart. Whichever your path with our heart has to do with how you grow, how you evolve, and so on. It must increase your evolution. That it will demand of you a higher level of authority, responsibility, etc. So those are all criteria that you're going to see which one are you going to use in order to figure out which opportunity to say yes to and which opportunities to say no to. Is that clear? Then underneath, there's another principle of Dharma, and that is that in Dharma, the key element is productive and procreative patterns. In karma, we have reproductive patterns. Reproductive patterns means that we're just repeating what we've learned. We're repeating what we have put in place, and the pattern is going over and over and over with small refinements. But basically, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing as your parent did, and they are doing the same that their parents did, and we just kind of keep repeating it. In Dharma, it's all about being productive. So one of the challenges that people have is learning what is a productive pattern? What is a dharmic pattern? And on this sheet of paper, it gives you the ideas of what does a non-productive pattern look like, and what does a productive pattern look like. And I would like you to take a moment, like 10 minutes maybe, and just take a look and sit with a person, like turn to a person to one of your left or your right side, and actually discuss it a little bit. And say, okay, this is what I see that I want to do with this in my life, and this pattern here is clearly karmic, and I'm going to turn it around and make it dharmic by following these principles. And this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. Are you following me? Yeah? Did you have a question?